Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shri. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dr. Dentalist. And today we are going to cover a small topic named operculectomy. This is basically a minor surgical procedure which we are going to cover today. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's have a look at operculectomy. So operculectomy is basically a surgical excision of the gingival flap, inflamed gingival flap which surrounds a partially erupted tooth. Okay, now this treatment modality is carried out in patients with persistent cases of pericoronitis. Now, what is pericoronitis? So in some patients, there is a partially covering gingival tissue or gum flap over the third molar that is called as operculum. Okay. Now, if this operculum, if it gets inflamed, if there is some infection, a swelling of this gingival tissue, that is called as pericoronitis. Now, as you can appreciate in this diagram, this is a mandibular, suppose for example it's a second molar. Now this is a partially erupting third molar. You can see this is a little bit tilted, it's a bit mesioangulated, but still there is some space here between the second and the third molar. Now this is the gingival tissue. Now but this gingival tissue has become inflamed and it is surrounding this, engulfing this partially erupting third molar. This arrow indicates that there is some sort of a food accumulation here, and that is one of the etiological factors. Food accumulation is one of the etiological factors that causes this inflammation of this gingival flap or inflammation of this operculum. Now this inflamed operculum, as I said, is called as pericoronitis. Okay, so what are some of the etiological factors of pericoronitis? Like I told you, food accumulation. Why food accumulation? Food accumulation happens because there is a pocket like structure which is created here. It becomes very easy for the food particles to come and lodge inside this pocket, and it becomes equally difficult to remove these food particles. Even if you brush twice, it doesn't always get removed, the food particles, right? So this chronic accumulation of food particles here causes infection and inflammation, and if this is not treated in time, if medications are not taken on time, then it can also lead to pus discharge, right? Let's come to the second etiological factor, that is cheek biting or pressure from the opposing maxillary erupted third molar. If there is a third molar in the opposing side, for example, let's take maxillary third molar is opposing this mandibular molar. If there is constant pressure, like for example if there is another tooth here and it is putting constant pressure on this gum tissue, right? Constantly you are biting, this is coming between these two teeth, so obviously there is going to be a lot of pain there, and this tissue is going to become inflamed, and subsequently it will become infected. Okay, so this is basically a form of trauma from occlusion, or you can call it cheek biting, one of these two things. Okay, so this is another etiological factor. Now coming to the clinical features. Now what are the clinical features of pericoronitis, right? So pericoronitis, it is most commonly seen in mandibular partially erupted third molars, right? But it can occur with any erupting tooth that doesn't fully emerge, right? And it is a common issue in young adults with erupting molar. See, most commonly this problem of pericoronitis is seen in mandibular third molar cases, but in any teeth which is not fully immersed, this problem can occur. Like for example, you take children. Okay, in children in the ages of say 10 to 12 years of age, when their permanent molars are going to erupt, that time when it is not fully erupted, it is partially erupted, that time also, if they do not take care of their hygiene properly, if their hygiene is not taken care of, then in them as well this pericoronitis problem can be seen, right? So what happens when there is pericoronitis? The patient will be having intense pain, and if this pain is not treated on time, this pain can radiate to the ear and temporal region, throat, as well as the floor of the mouth. So even if this is such a small, this looks like such a small thing, it's such a small piece of tissue, but it can cause such big problems, right? So patient may present with halitosis, pus discharge, and in severe cases patient has swelling in the angle of the mandibular region. Trismus will be there. Trismus is difficulty in opening of the mouth. So obviously if the patient is in intense pain, how will he or she open the mouth, right? Dysphagia, inability to eat their food, right? Fever, malaise. So these are all exaggerated clinical features, exaggerated symptoms if the patient is not getting the treatment on time. If they keep ignoring that swelling, if they keep ignoring that inflammation, it will lead to infection, and then it will lead to such serious consequences. Okay, so angle of the mandibular region is basically the angle of your mouth, right? For example, this is a mandible, right? This is the mouth, angle of the mouth of the patient. So in this lower jaw, in this region, this can become swollen in severe cases. Okay, now what are some of the complications that arises, right? Like I said, if pericoronitis is left untreated, if it is left ignored, then for a long time, then it may even lead to space infection, right? It can lead to space infection. Your submandibular space infection is most commonly seen if pericoronitis is left for too long, right? It can lead to pericoronal abscess. Pericoronal abscess means abscess that is surrounding the crown of the tooth, because you can see this gum tissue is surrounding the crown of the tooth. This is surrounding the coronal portion of the tooth, right? So here you will be able to see the pus discharge, like you can see this arrow here. Pus discharge can also be seen from here, most commonly seen. So when all of this is there, then as we saw in this clinical feature, patient may present with halitosis. So because of this pus discharge, halitosis can be there, right? Peritonsillar abscess can also be there. Ludwig's angina can be there, but this is very, if it is left untreated for a very, very long time, it doesn't usually get to this far, but in some patients who are very ignorant, it can lead to Ludwig's angina as well, right? So what can be the management? What is the management? Okay, before management, let's look at pericoronitis, like the types of pericoronitis that can be there. So it can be of three types. It can be acute, subacute, chronic. Acute pericoronitis, what are the clinical features? Like what is acute pericoronitis? So this happens when this is the first onset of pericoronitis, the first incidence that the patient is presenting with pericoronitis. So the clinical features will be that it's going to be very painful for the patient. It is mostly localized. You can easily make out that that swelling, that gingival flap will be easily seen as inflamed and infected. Okay, subacute means it's between acute and chronic. Subacute means that maybe this is a second time that this is recurring, you will see that there will be slight swelling and lymphadenopathy. You can see slight extraoral swelling, and pus discharge might also be present. Now coming to chronic means it's been left untreated for a long time. It keeps recurring again and again and again. There will be pus discharge, there will be lymphadenopathy, there will be swelling. Maybe there won't be so much pain, but there will be exaggerated clinical features, right? So coming to the management, the first line of treatment of operculectomy is wait and watch. Wait and watch. Be patient. Do not jump onto doing operculectomy on the first appointment itself. First, you need to treat the causes, especially when it is the first time, when it is the first incidence of pericoronitis. In such patients, always wait and watch. So how will you come to know it is the first incidence or it is the second incidence or what is it? You will have to take proper patient history. Then you will have to do proper clinical examination of that area. Okay, so if the age of the patient is 17 to 25, if it is first incidence of pericoronitis, if the clinical features are acute, then you need to follow this protocol. Okay, also you have to see whether the distance from distal root of mandibular second molar to angle of mandible is sufficient. Means you will see the distance between the partially erupting third molar and the second molar. You will take x-rays, okay, to appreciate that distance. If the distance is sufficient, then that means that it can be treated with medications. And if the distance is not sufficient, then it most likely means that this patient, this tooth third molar will go into extraction or disimpaction, right? So you have to take x-rays for that first of all and appreciate the distance. But you will not jump the gun on the first appointment itself. Even if you feel that the distance is not sufficient, you will irrigate that area with saline and betadine solution first, then prescribe medications to the patient, prescribe proper analgesics and antibiotics for 5 days. Okay, then follow up with the patient after 5 days. Ask them whether the pain has reduced or not. Okay, then tell them to observe for another week, and if the symptoms do not go away after another week, then you will recall the patient, and then we will go on to the second line of treatment, that is operculectomy. Okay, so finally we are coming to the heading of what the heading was, right? The topic that was operculectomy. Okay, so yeah, if the symptoms do not subside, then we shift to this surgical procedure, operculectomy. Okay, when the pericoronitis is persistent or recurrent, then we will move on to operculectomy. So first of all, again, take proper patient history, very important. If the operculectomy is recurrent, if the patient is maybe coming to you for the first time, but it is not the first time that the patient is having this pericoronitis, if they say कि नहीं मुझे पहले भी हो चुका है, that means yes, I have suffered with this same thing before as well. This is the second time it's happening, it's the third time it's happening, then you will go for operculectomy. If the patient says that I've already taken medications, like the previous dentist that I went to, they had prescribed me antibiotics, they had prescribed me painkillers, I had taken it, but still it did not go away, so I came to you. Okay, if this patient says something like this, that yeah, they have already taken medications, this is the second time or the third time, then you move on to this operculectomy procedure. Okay, so as I told you before, operculectomy is the removal or excision of the inflamed and infected gingival flap surrounding the partially erupted crown. So in this as well, there is a very important step that you have to do. check if the tooth is in the inclination, that is mesioangular or vertical inclination, and it should not get interlocked with the second molar. If you see that there is no sufficient space between the erupting third molar and the second molar, if you see that there is interlocking between the second molar and the third molar, okay, that means that operculectomy is not going to be feasible. Operculectomy is not going to be favorable for such patients. It will just again come back, and this all procedure will go into waste, right? So for such patients where the second molar and the third molar is interlocking between each other, you will advise the patient to go for disimpaction instead. Okay. Anyways, if the space is sufficient, then you can go for operculectomy, and operculectomy can be carried out in 3 ways. That is, first is using normal scalpel and blade. Number 15 blade is used in that. Second is electrocautery, and the third is laser. Now out of these 3, laser is the best option because there are no burning smells. Burning smells are emitted most commonly during electrocauterization, and there is no bleeding as well. So laser is a better option out of these 3, and scalpel and blade is the age-old option. Number 15 blade is used to surgically remove that gingival flap. Okay. But yeah, obviously bleeding is there, but still it is the cheapest and the most the easiest option. Not because not many clinics have laser available as their equipment, right? So scalpel and blade is a good option. Electrocautery can also be done. In this also bleeding is quite reduced, but there is odd burning smell that comes during the removal. If the patient is okay with it, if the patient is okay to bear that burning smell, then yeah, definitely go for electrocautery. Now before all of this procedure is done, obviously that tissue has to be anesthetized using topical anesthesia and as well as local anesthesia. There's no need to give any sort of block. Okay. Local infiltration will do the work. It will easily do the job. Now all these procedures I will explain in detail in part 2. I will also show you photos, and I'll also show you videos of all these 3 procedures, right? In this I just want to keep it brief and concise, so I'm just quickly going through all the steps and all the types of treatment modalities, right? Now coming to the third and the last option, that is disimpaction or extraction. So as I told you, if the third molar and the second molar, they are interlocking between each other, right? For example, if you see in this diagram, you can appreciate in this diagram, if this third molar completely, for example, if it completely interlocks with this, right? If it is like this is the new position. If you can appreciate, I'll use a different pen. Please wait. Right. So, for example, now you see, this is the new outline of the tooth. This is the third molar. Okay, and this is the second molar. If there is a situation somewhat like this, where this third molar and second molar are interlocking like this, then there is no use of doing operculectomy. You can do operculectomy, but it's just going to recur again. So the best option, best treatment modality in such cases where there is such interlocking, okay, it is disimpaction or extraction. And apart from that, even if there is sufficient space, but this third molar, this partially erupted tooth, it is not healthy. Along with pericoronal infection, there is periodontal disease as well. This periapical infection, if you see that the third molar is having periapical infection, it has periodontal disease, the bone condition is not well, there is root resorption, okay, there is caries, then this is the best option. Go for disimpaction, right? So that was about this lecture, that was about operculectomy. Thank you so much everyone for patiently listening. I hope that this video will be helpful to you, and please do forgive me if I have made any mistakes, if you felt I was being too slow. This is the first video that I have made and I'm going to upload. So thank you all, thank you for being here.